Welcome to the SPL Rundown, your weekly look at the Smite Pro League. I'm your host, Apam, here with my wonderful guest analysts, Lermy, Frost, and today we have a special guest, Elchuckles, the coach from PK, joins us. Stick around for my interview with the one and only Barracudda later on, but first, we're here to talk about the games from last week, and the first game that we're going to talk about, ironically enough, I guess maybe even not ironic enough, but is Ghost vs. PK. Chuck, what's going on in this set?
Oh boy. I mean, yeah, that was a rough one.
It was.
I mean,
my notes here say clinical by Ghost, and I remember I was watching the Hazer do his weekly commentary on the SPL, and he was really confused by the set pick that you guys went to both games. Can you talk about set a little bit?
I mean, set, it's kind of just, we think it's we've been trying it a bit, so we think it's a decent enough character.
Mm-hmm.
It obviously went through a fair bit of scrimming.
Sure.
Saw some success there, so I mean, sometimes things just don't work out.
Yeah.
In the actual when push comes to shove.
Lermy, Frost, any thoughts on Ghost vs. PK?
Wait a minute. Okay. I'm looking at the scores and stuff, but they're backwards. I was so confused.
They're all backwards in the client.
Oh, I see it. Yeah. Okay.
They're also all kind of messed up on the website too. So
yeah, that's what I'm looking at right now is the website, and I'm like, wait, this is not who had these picks, but this seems about right. I enjoy set into Cthulhu because I think that's like the scariest matchup for him. I've played, we both, Lermy and I, have done the whole get to diamond, and then you experience all kinds of matchups. What's good, what's not. Set's the only one I'm afraid of as Cthulhu because you have this habit of going up into the ultimate. You see him just kind of, ult coming through, goes underneath you. You hear a pit stop happening underneath you, and you die. You don't know what's going on, but set, something magical is happening down there. And I figured something magical would happen here. I don't think he had the room he needed, though.
Yeah,
I don't think it was specifically for Cthulhu, but I don't think he had enough room to actually.
I like the idea.
Do what he wanted.
I like the character. It's just hard to get him off the ground, and I like the idea a lot with the Aphrodite to kind of, be that second life to kind of give him the ability to heal up in team fights and that extra second of life. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of just, you have to give and take with that. And, you did actually get the Cupid in game 2 to kind of cover up that area damage that you wouldn't be having with the Aphrodite. I don't know, something just didn't get off the ground there. And of course, giving Final K Cthulhu, that's kind of the meme, right? He just gets to do what he wants.
Sure. I know.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Frost.
Oh, Ghost it seems like they have a knack for the Cthulhu picks because I said before, it's not about just getting Cthulhu. A lot of people have picked Cthulhu, have lost on it. He's lost now as support and as solo.
Sure.
But the way that they draft, you got the Cthulhu, obviously, wasn't too fond of the Cupid into the Cthulhu, but they drafted Rom later on. That's what you need, an ADC that can kind of stay safe or dive with you. Then you got a very aggressive support. You've got the Nemesis. You've got a Habois and or Merlin. They just seem to really know the type of team comps that you need to get that pick going.
I feel like the Nemesis is almost more of a takeaway pick because I feel like, Sam would have played whatever, right? But I feel like Nemesis in the Cthulhu is really good because not only are you just generally not really aware of what's going on, like you mentioned earlier, but taking away all those protections and you still kind of, I haven't ever personally remember off the top of my head, getting Nem ulted and then just getting blown up by it. But just thinking about the concept, you're sitting up there, you have to be hyper aware of what's going on to know that, oh yeah, that tiny thing on my debuff bar popped up and now I'm just probably dead in half a second.
Sure. Any final thoughts about Ghost vs. PK? I know it was a pretty quick set and we're not spending too much time talking about it, but any other things that you guys want to mention?
Yeah, I mean, on top of, anything about picks and bans, which I mean, I'm not really inclined to go too much into about how we think about stuff, but
sure.
I mean, on top of that, we started out both games, I think, with Fred dying on wave 1, which is an incredibly rough situation, and also I'm pretty sure hasn't happened all year, even in scrims that I've seen. So it's a rough situation to be in, and I think that like sort of set the stage for both those games.
Sure. Any other thoughts from you guys?
No, that's about it for me.
All right. SSG versus Renegades. And I think we expected SSG to win this one 2-0. A lot of people, I think, put SSG in maybe the top 2 or 3 teams in the league so far in Phase 2. What are your guys' initial thoughts about this game? You know, I have to bring up the Chang'e Game 1. Did you ever think we would see Chang'e back in the SPL? You know, it's not DJ Pernicus isn't in here anymore, right?
Not in mid. Never in my life would I have thought that character would end up in mid in the SPL.
I think we've seen her in solo a couple games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts on the Chang'e?
See, now this might be a bit controversial, and it kind of goes along with the last match. Okay, trying to figure out how to not make it sound so... Top teams tend to experiment a bit more freely with the not top teams. Let's just go there. I don't know if this is something Dardez is feeling actually works, or if it's something he just cracked out because it happens to be Renegades. Kind of like something that surprised me in the Radiance and Obey set. They cracked out ISIS. I don't know if that's something BMT really wants to sit on, or if it's something he's just going, you know what, it's Obey. If it's going to work, it's going to work now.
Sure.
I'm not sold on it.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those that goes, oh, it worked in this match. I think with the context of, you know, it was SSG against Renegades.
Sure.
I don't think they're sold on it either. I don't think we'll see it again.
Yeah. I don't think any team really rocks up to SPL and's like, I'm going to straight troll pick here.
Sure.
But I think the thought process behind, like a Chang'e is more one-dimensional. It's more like, oh, hey, maybe I pick Chang'e here. She has a 2. It's not like, I'll pick Chang'e here. She works, really well into all this stuff that we've scrimmed against, and we know she's good against all this. It's more, we need something safe here. Let's whip out this character.
All right, moving on then to Radiance versus Obey. I think every week we see Obey, they start to look a little bit better, a little more consistent on things, but they're still not completely 100% there. What are your first thoughts on this set in particular?
I mean, I'm really glad to see Sino kind of moving in the right direction. I feel like, again, we're kind of going with the popular, fan base meme of, okay, Sino's finally on something meta. He's playing stuff like Nemesis. He's playing, I think he played Nemesis both times, actually.
I believe he did.
But I don't know, something just, I mean, we talked about picks and bans a lot, at least between, the earlier set, but I think that it is really important to kind of just think, there are lots of things open, right? And of course, being comfortable in a character is really, really important. It kind of is what makes or breaks certain things. And of course, Obey kind of do that, right? They play what they like to play. And it doesn't really matter beyond that, I feel like. But, they are kind of adjusting. If they had gone with something a little more meta, I feel like in the solo, or maybe ditch the soul. Like, I feel like them and Renegades are trying to make this soul work. And I just don't feel like it does. I feel like it's very close to being on the cusp, but I think that she's, definitely on the bottom of the, the magical ADCs or Hecate abusers or whatever you want to call them.
Sure. Ross, Chuck?
I'm not on board with the soul. Tell me more, though, Chuck. Why do you think she's favored so much?
I mean, she's just super safe, right? Like, there's very little. Like, when you think about, safe characters at like the competitive level, it's like there's Jingwei. There's, there's not that many safe mages, honestly. Like, Sol is probably one of the safest, just by virtue of slow immune, self Aegis, and then a CC immune ult. So like, I get what they're trying to go for, and like, there's merit to, like, you can make pretty much any pick work, right? If you play around it correctly. But like, I don't know, some things just don't come together. I do like though that Obey's switching away from what was it? All those friggin' warrior solos that they've been trying to jam the past few weeks.
You mean
So it's
Warrior
good to
Jungles?
Oh yeah, jungles. Yeah.
Why is everyone so mean? This I know.
Well, I mean, he did single-handedly like bring Nike in, and I think he sort of changed the jungle meta in Phase 1 when he first came in. So
Yeah, for sure.
people are kind of
Nike was
expecting a
sick.
lot.
Nike was sick,
single-handedly
but
brought Nike out too.
True.
after that, it was a little bit rough.
Yeah, I don't know. The Osiris jungles were not cutting it.
He's trying to do old season 1 stuff. My goodness. Did he crack out the Nike though? Like
He
it
did.
was
He
one of
cracked it out.
those. He
What?
cracked it out, but did he force everyone's hand? It had been a thing in season like 6, but mostly in ranked. It would be Sino. It would be.
Yeah.
There was some prominent solo laner. I forgot what it was.
Well, I know
I
Kirby
can't remember
played
what it
it
was.
at Worlds, maybe like season 4 or 5 in the jungle, right?
Oh man.
So
Probably,
there is
yeah.
like a storied history of Nike in the jungle, so to speak.
Like we'd known she was good, but she's so boring. No one actually ever wanted to play her. But now it's she's good enough to where we have to. And then Sunday came through, and now I'm satisfied.
This week, I had the pleasure of sitting down with my good friend John Barracudda Salter to talk about Phase 1, Phase 2, all of these awesome Jake shenanigans, and a few other things. Check it out. Hey, I'm joined here by the wonderful John Barracudda Salter, also Smite World Champion, here to talk about Season 7, Phase 1, Phase 2, maybe some other things as well. The first thing I have to ask, though, awesome Jake 408, how is that going so far? How is the Jake experiment?
I love Jake.
Yeah.
He is a handful every day, but he's also a lot of fun to work with, and his level of talent is through the roof.
Sure.
And individual skill and playmaking potential are just insanely high. Like, he's, I would say, like a carry in the support role, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
He's willing to make the play and is willing to go like the extra mile to kill people, which isn't always a good thing, but yeah.
How's the adjustment been? I know because you've laned with Jeff, who's a veteran of the league for so long, and now this is basically like a baby. How has that adjustment been from someone who I'm sure you have a lot, even like a bigger personal relationship with as well? And now it's just someone completely new.
Definitely a big learning curve and learning adjustment for me, and more, I would say, like a teacher role. And a lot of it's back to, I wouldn't say basics, but like basics of, I guess, competitive play. Sure. And kind of, it's like someone has the raw mechanical skill to be one of the best players in the game and that the game has ever seen, but you just need to kind of teach them how it's like a more team-oriented game and less of a solo carry project, I guess.
Sure.
And kind of show him that, hey, all these people on your team, we're all your teammates. And me shining is just as important as you shining, and that's just as important as Vin, et cetera, and just kind of sharing the limelight with everyone and making sure everyone is feeling like their role is impactful.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard because a lot of his god pool is, I would say, the more selfish picks and the more what he can shine on, and he makes so many plays on his style of picks, and it's just making sure that he remembers that it's a team-oriented game, because Smite, we've seen in my opinion, the last 2 winners of the World Championship have won through raw teamwork. And not like individual playmaking, but in my opinion, teamwork was the main foundation of why those teams won.
Sure. Keeping on with Jake a little bit, this conversation reminds me of something that Zap used to say, which is, you pay a little bit too much ranked and you get some of these bad ranked habits that invade your comp. And Jake, I imagine, is someone who's, born and raised in the ranked scene. Does he just have a bunch of these sort of ranked habits that, you're having to chip away at every day?
Yeah, it is a daily thing. Some weeks and some days are worse than others, and it's a lot to deal with because some days he'll be like, "Oh, this worked really well in ranked. Like, I'm just gonna bring it out here," and it either really works that day or really does not work that day.
Yeah, and
I think it's hard for him to make the distinction between ranked and competitive play. And like, ranked is one thing, scrims are one thing, SPL is one thing, and then LAN is a whole nother thing.
Sure.
And there are just so many different divisions of play in Smite that the game changes at literally each one of those. And you have to make sure that your god, your play style, and your teammates' play styles are all adapting through each phase. And unfortunately, because of COVID right now, it's hard for us to get that practice. And
yeah, because
it's just
the LANs are no different than the online season and things like that. It's hard to see the stratification.
And it's really hard to, I would say, like, playing SPL online is just different. And like, you try to stay as focused and be as try-hard as possible, but it's hard when the atmosphere is just different, I guess. And I feel like if we were at LAN, and because losing at LAN and winning at LAN feel completely different than winning and losing online. And I feel like we're missing out on that experience, which I feel like would help us grow as a team more and help him develop as well as a player.
Sure. All right, well, moving on to phase 1, I would say relatively successful given the how new the team is. Everyone would, I think, this is basically the first time playing with each of these players, except for maybe Ven, right?
Yep.
And how do you think the phase went? Did you see the improvement that you wanted to see, especially being able to get into the playoffs and things like that? Or did you expect some more, more wins, I guess? I mean, 5-9 is still very respectable because, you definitely made the playoffs. And once you make the playoffs, anyone has a chance, I think. But, I imagine, especially with the new team, it's all about measuring how much you improve, So how much did you guys improve, do you feel? And is that the improvement that you wanted to see?
I feel like we improved a decent amount. I am a little disappointed because I feel like we could have improved more and been more... It's a hard question. I always want to be better than we are.
Sure.
And I always want to
until you win Worlds, I mean, right?
Yeah. It's been a while.
Yep.
And I feel like we could have improved a lot more than we did, but I'm still happy with the amount that we've improved, which I think we improved, but I feel like with Radiance improving as much as they did from the beginning to where they are now, which in my opinion, Radiance is a top 2 team.
Yeah.
I feel like we should have at least moved into the 4th or 5th slot instead of being where we are, which was 6th place in phase 1. And our playoffs, I mean, it was just an unfortunate situation, right?
Yeah.
We did the best with the hand that we were dealt, but we weren't expecting to go in and like completely stomp Ghost by any means. In that set. And yeah, I would say slightly disappointed, but I'm still happy at the end of the day with the amount that we improved.
Sure. Well, moving on to phase 2. Early on, you've had a little bit of success. 1 set win so far. Took a game off Ghost, but there are still some rough patches to work on and things like that. Are you using the early part of this phase to experiment with picks or strategies a little bit more than like trying to play something that is maybe more consistent or maybe more like quote unquote meta?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think we are trying to figure out the meta that we can play as a team and trying to figure out our own identity and our own style that works. Like I said against Sanguine, in scrims, Cthulhu had seemed really underwhelming and kind of bad. And then we also thought we could deal with Freya as well. And looking back on it, it was like Cthulhu, Freya, Persephone, game 1, and we almost won the game like 3 different times. But we overchased like so many times into Freya Purse backline and ended up dying. And then game 2, we just kind of got stomped that game. I feel like our draft was also just bad. And the Ghost set, I feel like we should have 2-0'd them. I feel like we played against them with way more respect than we should have. And like we drafted well, in my opinion, game 1 and game 2. But we just watched them make plays on the jungle and in the jungle instead of grouping up and making our own plays and getting deep vision, which is what Ghost plays through. And then we beat Obey, and Obey, in my opinion, is in a really big rut, or they were in a big rut, and they're just not playing well. I think they're struggling with the same thing we're struggling with, which is finding their identity and finding the style that they want to play and succeed with. And I feel like I feel like 5th through 8th right now all have the same like identity problems. I feel like I would say PK, maybe even Sanguine a little bit, and then Unite, us, and Obey. I feel like basically those 5 teams, in my opinion, are struggling with meta as well as having an identity and what they want to play through. And it's when the meta shifts, some teams are really good immediately, and some teams take a while to adjust. And we're also adjusting to outside of the game things as well.
Right.
With like you were talking about earlier, having basically new teammates and new dynamics and new problems and new successes. So everything's just new to us. And unfortunately, it's taking a while for us to kind of find our footing. But I feel like if we can find a style and find just gods that we want to play that will make all of us look good as players, as well as a team, I feel like that's when we'll find our success, along with the 4 other teams that I listed.
Sure. One thing I wanted to ask you about is it seems like you guys in all of the roles have been trying a bunch of different picks early on in Season 2. And this sort of relates to my experimentation question. Is that just because, the bans are changing a lot, or you guys are just trying different things to see what you guys can make work?
Kind of a mix. As metas shift, you need to find, like I said earlier, your identity and what your team excels at.
Yeah.
And that's kind of that's what we're struggling with right now, is just finding a style that works and finding, just picks and bans that go in our favor, I would say. I wouldn't say we're going into picks and bans with the mindset of experimenting or going into an SPL day saying, oh, let's try this out and hope it works. It's something we've tried either that week or the week and a half before in scrims.
Yeah.
And kind of try to iron it into our play style and our identity. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
I think we looked especially weak in our SSG set. And unfortunately, I think that was due more to communication and kind of breaking down on an individual basis, because those games just felt terrible. And it might have been because people were uncomfortable on the picks that they played. But to me, it just felt like whatever happened, our team just had a bad day that day.
How do you feel your transition was from sort of the early success you had, winning worlds in Season 1, to going through, the really rough patches in Season 5 and 6, I want to say, where, things really didn't go your way. And now sort of, now you're coming out into basically a brand new situation. How did that transition go for you personally?
This year feels way better than last year.
Yeah.
As far as mental state goes. Last year was terrible because we had spent the entire week double scrimming, come to SPL and lose. And I feel like we didn't get an escape from Smite. And I feel like people were, I don't even know if I would say burnt out, but we didn't have, there was that drive to win, but it was just, it didn't feel right. It didn't feel good. And it wasn't anyone in particular. It was kind of just a team-wide thing. Whereas it just felt really bad. And we had a lot of tension in the team. And a lot of people wanting other people to play a certain way. And it was hard to bring up problems. And there was just a lot of problems with those rosters. And then now we still have problems on this roster, but I feel like we're seeing improvement and seeing different problems than I've had before. So they're new experiences for me, and they feel better than the old problems, I guess.
Sure.
Like
sure.
if my problem is like Jake holding W for an entire like scrim,
Yeah.
That's a new problem, and it feels pretty good.
Yeah.
Honestly, like it's just different, but it feels better. So I would say re-energized and remotivated currently for the future of this team and the future of all the teammates that I have currently.
Great. Yeah. Well, I think that's all the questions I have right now. Are there any people you'd like to shout out or give props to? You know, the floor is yours here.
Dude, there's so many people. Okay, I feel like I don't thank my mods enough in my stream.
Sure.
And I feel like right now I have a relatively well-behaved stream.
Mm-hmm.
Same with Steve. I watch a lot of Steve. I feel like both of or Zatman, I don't know. I feel like both of us have relatively well-behaved chats, and a lot of that comes down to the mods and the amount of people that they time out / ban / get onto.
Mm-hmm.
My fans, definitely. There's just... It's crazy that people still want to watch me play. Like, I've been doing this for over 7 years, and people still want to watch me play and want to watch me play a video game, like on my stream or on SPL, and people still cheer me on. And I've let them down for so many years, and people still like come back and cheer me on. And my family for supporting me in the beginning and supporting me through. My mom texts me after every SPL game.
Oh, that's great.
I've let her down so much.
I don't know if I would call that letting people down, you know? As long as you're trying your best, I don't think even the fans feel like they're let down. So
yeah, you can tell that to Reddit, my guy.
Hey, I don't consider Reddit the fans, okay? The amount of... I've never met Reddit at Worlds, so, you know, that's all I'm going to say.
I don't think... I mean, they're too busy, like, on their armchairs, like, writing more Reddit posts about, like, how I'm the worst ADC, and how I should just retire, and how my mid laner's terrible, or how Jake should never been allowed in SPL, like, X, Y, or Z, dude. People are so...
Hey, at least they care, though, right?
You gotta put that energy in a positive way. Like,
that's true.
If people... That's a topic for another day. Destiny, sure. I would... That's the last one. For putting up with me.
Yeah.
Forever. I'm a lot to deal with. And she's still doing it, which is crazy. Actually, one more. I want to thank all of my prior teammates. Because without all of them, I wouldn't be who I am today. And I feel like all of them have taught me different things. And yeah, it's just been, it's been a fun adventure.
Sure.
With all of my teammates and all the thousands of hours I put into scrims. Teaming with the people I've teamed with, I feel like I got very lucky along my journey. That's still going on.
All right, well, I have to thank you for giving a wonderful interview and me taking like almost an hour and a half of your time. This has been really a great talk that we've had. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for allowing me. I wouldn't have done anything better.
All right, pals. Sanguine versus E United, and again, like Obey, I think we see E United have progressed a little bit as a team. They come out looking strong against the Sanguine set. But the Sanguine team fight in the mid game and the late game is just a little too strong, and they were able to take some Fire Giants and some objectives and win both these games fairly, I don't want to say easily, but, comfortably, I would say. One thing I want to note is they let Persephone to hurry win through. Do you think this is something we're going to see teams start doing, is see who's actually got the goods on Persephone?
Now would definitely be the time to do it. You don't want to assume that someone does or doesn't have it, and then they whip it out at Worlds.
Yeah.
If you're gonna figure out if they have it or not, now when there's not much on the line would be the best time.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, information's always really important, and also right now when there's so many, really top tier things that you really don't want, a lot of teams to get, then you sort of sometimes you're sort of forced into, allowing things through. So teams experiment with letting Persephone through. So if you've got to let one through, then sometimes, you decide on, Persephone.
Sure.
Such odd bands, though. Like Sanguine took out the Suket, they took out Hercules, and they took out Aphrodite.
Mm-hmm.
They get the Hercules for inbound, Suket maybe as well for inbound. Does Scream does have a really nasty Suket.
Hey, this is E United, so no inbound.
Oh yeah, shoot! I always get these two confused. These two teams are the ones I always get them confused. So on E United, we've got, let's see here.
Snoopy is the support on E United.
Yeah, Snoopy. Okay.
Yeah, and I think Snoopy's been playing a fair bit of Hercules, so that band does make a little bit of sense.
Yeah, but for them to go and say Hercules to Ymir, I mean, okay, I've
yeah, he definitely had a rough time.
Just, I hate Ymir. Please stop picking Ymir. It's so bad. I told you,
he comes into the meta out of seemingly nowhere every 2 years. He cycles through, he's gone, and then we remember, oh yeah, Wall.
Yeah, I mean, there's merit to the thought process behind the pick. Like, he's got a lot of lane pressure, and lane pressure is, pretty decently valued right now. So, and he did just get buffed with the wall thing, which did make, playing him feel, less clunky, I guess.
Sure.
More responsive. So, I mean, it's not like it's not like it's a completely bad pick, but sometimes, the fucking 2 move speed character waddling around just isn't the play.
True.
Just get trashed on. I don't think, between the SPL and the SEC, I don't think we've seen a Ymir win.
Sure.
I'm almost certain, at least this year.
A Ymir?
Well, I think PBM won on Ymir once.
Yeah, PBM won on this.
Did he? Yeah. Was it this year?
It was in phase 1.
Yeah, it was this year.
Okay.
Right
after the buff.
I gotta bring up the Sun Wukong jungle that Scream played in both games here. What is the thought process between this Sun Wukong jungle? Is this some classic sledge abuse, or is there something more going on here?
I mean, you can sledge abuse on a regular assassin. I don't know why you bring out the Wukong.
Sure.
Right?
No thoughts?
I mean,
I'm mostly trying to understand. What is it? Why are they so keen on warriors? Tell me.
Yeah, I mean, Scream does Scream things, and sometimes he gets it in his head that some things are really good.
Sure.
And I mean, after watching the games, there's some merit to it, but I just feel assassins do so much more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't hate Wukong as a solo pick. I think it's fine. But as a jungle pick, it just, like you said, assassins just do more.
I feel like we've seen some other teams pick up the Wukong. What comes to mind is Sanford Soccer too has played it. I don't know if he's won on it, but it seems like
I believe he did.
People like it,
I think it was phase.
I mean, that's a little something he's been workshopping since way back in last year. So
sure.
Like, you can always get Sam on here to talk about the merits of Wukong jungle. But
I should have asked him about that last week.
Yeah, I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's not the worst pick in the world. It can still do jungler type things.
Yeah.
It's just there's probably better picks.
Sure.
It's definitely if you're looking for something safe and that can start a fight, then that's where you look.
Yeah.
It would also help if Snoopy didn't die 4 times in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, that is true.
It's okay. There's catch-up mechanics. It's fine. one throw mid-game.
That's what they're there for.
I think Ghost vs. SSG was probably the most surprising set of the whole weekend. I surely expected it was going to be a long one, but Game 1 was very quick, and Game 2 was not that much longer, and Ghost are rolling this week, really looking like the best team in the league. Kind of a letdown. What are you guys' thoughts on this set?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I thought this was going to be a lot closer, but I mean, just looking at some of the highlight plays from this set, I mean, PBM had some insane plays in the Emoja, like crazy skill on this character. So it's just crazy how much you have to try and take away from Ghost because there's so much that they're good at. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Ghost definitely came in pretty hot this week. They obviously stomped the hell out of us, and then they did did pretty much the same against SSG too. So they were definitely looking pretty hot.
I mean, they only gave up 3 kills in the first game, which I think ended
Yeah.
in like 22 minutes.
22 minutes,
which
yeah.
is just, I mean, kind of absurd for an SPL match. So, especially like, we're going to talk about power rankings a little bit later, but these two teams, I think, are sort of in the upper strata of SPL teams so far, at least early on in Phase 2. And I think everyone
I think
expected
they've
it to
definitely
be...
come out the strongest.
Yeah, I think everyone expected it to be sort of a Clash of Titans, but, you know, it kind of feels like the snowball was just too much here.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time, it's like there's only a few key moments that dictate, you know, how a game's going to go.
Sure.
And if like, you know, at 18 minutes, SSG just make a really big whoopsie, and then Ghost capitalizes on it, then there's not a lot you can really do beyond making a really sick Phoenix defense. And sometimes that's just on the cards.
Yeah, yeah. Frost?
That was very specific. Is that we're talking game 2, Cabrakan? Is that what we're talking about there?
I was actually just about to bring up the Cabrakan, so if you want to talk about it, go ahead.
I was more so going for it in general, like just before getting ahead of myself. I really did expect some back and forth, all 3 matches. Going into this, yeah, sure, I'm a Ghost fan, but I also like analyzing it, and I'm thinking here, SSG, they're gonna take a game. They're gonna maybe even, if anybody's gonna be Ghost, it would be SSG because they come up with some nutty comps.
Sure.
And then they were just completely eviscerated in the first one with a classic Geb too. We don't see Geb much. We haven't seen him since like season 6. But then there's always these huge gaps where he's not played, and that was an aggressive Geb too.
Yep,
getting in your face. Raffer was the one that played him last time around, and now he's kind of getting a taste of his own medicine here.
Definitely.
But they seem to defy everything that we know, and then go, nah, I'm kidding. We have these aggressive builds. We have these aggressive items. This is a classic. We got Guardian's Blessing, Reinforced Shoes, Thebes, Relic Stagger, Pridwin. That's a standard Guardian build. Everyone was crying that those don't work anymore.
Yeah.
But here they are just making it work. I think that's what the meta is now, is just super team dependent. And there's also less room for error, which is what we saw in that first match. I'm kind of astounded by Ghost not making a plan for failure. They just keep on trying to run it and go, all right, we'll make less mistakes. Last time we threw 25 minutes in, instead of going, we play it safe until 25, they just go, no, we're not going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
We're going to try our best to not make mistakes. Game 2, that was very sloppy. This team gives me, they stress me out because they love to get that first match going, and then that second one they tend to troll. So it's now a 2-1 scenario. I think SSG could have had that one if it hadn't been for the little Cabrakan play that happened in the mid lane.
Last set of the week, Sanguine versus PK. And even though it was a 2-0 for Sanguine, I think both of these games were much closer than the final scoreline would indicate. You know, the gold was not too bad, but there are a lot of team fights going either way in this set. What are your first impressions on this game?
Yeah, I mean, compared to our set against Ghost, I was, much happier with this one.
Sure.
Ghost, we came out very flat, I feel. Just making a lot of mistakes that we at least know not to do on a good day.
Yeah.
Sanguine, I mean, we lost, so we still ended up making those mistakes. But at the very least, it wasn't, such a blowout like against Ghost.
Yep. Frost or Lermy, any thoughts?
Yeah. Maybe it's a personal one. Is Zap okay? Is it because his elo is probably the lowest it's ever been in ranked? He's not got that aggression in him, but he also seems a bit tepid at times. I wouldn't say he's afraid, but he has stated before that he's had some metas where he's kind of a little scared to step forward.
Yeah, I mean, listen, rank does something to a man when he's grinding for God knows how long every day. But I mean, yeah, it's just like it's not just one thing. It's a whole bunch of different thoughts about how we should play. Just in general, not quite aligning together as well as it should for us right now. So, I mean, always.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go on.
I will say Zap had a pretty good game too, going 8-1 on the Jingwei. Making a lot of plays. It felt like. You guys seem to have an affinity for the base races, and it's not really worked out for you.
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen like 4 base races in 4 weeks so far, or something like that.
Yeah, it's definitely not good for the old heart of
Sure.
as a spectator.
Yeah.
It's, hearing the can we end, and as everyone's running it down.
Yeah.
It's definitely a little stressful, but I mean, a lot of it stems from not being able, like, once it gets to the point where we're trying to do those base races and failing, then something's already been messed up beforehand. Like,
Sure.
we didn't just get to that point, where all 3 Phoenixes are down and our Titans getting killed by minions, just out of the blue.
You feel like these are like Hail Mary plays that you guys are trying to make to
Yeah,
save
well,
the
thing, the thing is in the base race, that we had in this set, like, if we don't try to end there, we just straight up lose the game.
Sure.
There's 3 Phoenixes down, they'll all be up. Ideally, what we should have done was look for a pick and not try to run down with 3 people into their entire respawn team. So there's definitely coordination issues on that regard, but I mean, at some point you've got to pull the trigger and try and make those plays, because otherwise you'll just passively lose.
Sure. All right, let's look ahead towards next week's games. The first game of the week is United versus Obey. So let's just go around the table and give a set prediction. Why don't you say what the game score is going to be as well when we go around? So, Chuck, what do you got for United versus Obey?
I mean, on paper, I'd probably just say United over Obey. I do think United probably has some of the lowest lows at times. But I think in general, I mean, unless Obey step it up, which I feel like every team can step it up right now.
Sure. What you got? 2-1, 2-0? What do you think the game score is going to be?
I'd say 2-0.
2-0 United.
United.
All right. Frost, what about you? United
This is a
Obey.
very important match because we get to find out who is actually at the bottom, since they are both 0-4 right now.
Yes.
All the pressure is in the mid lane right now. So if you're going to compare the threes, I want to give it to Obey just on Wolfie alone, but Scream and Herwin together, that's where it's kind of scary. Now, the duo lane, got Guy J and Snoopy versus Inbound and Wowie. I think we're going to see like just a ranked slobber knocker between these. As I expected SSG and Ghost to have that kind of slog match that's going to go all the way for both teams. I think this is going to be the hottest match of the year.
Sure.
Just because somebody's got to prove we're not last place. I think that this is their worlds right now, and everybody's got to be watching this one. I think it's going to go 2-1 all the way. Probably all 3 matches, 50 minutes.
Okay.
And I think it's going to be, in the end,
Nice
I
and
think
long
it's going
for our
to
EU
be,
friends, I guess.
all right. Oh, God. I think it's going to go to Obey.
Okay, Obey 2-1. Lermy, what do you got for this set?
Honestly, I'm kind of looking at it the same way as Frost, where I'm comparing the 3v3s, and generally, I think E United has it. I think when Scream is kind of on the money, he's definitely up there. And, same thing with Heroin. When those two are on, by golly, they are on and they pop off. So I think in general, they tend to do that and play that way more than I think that Wolfie and Sino would. But, they kind of are getting to that point, and they being Obey, where they are kind of, leaving the experimentation behind.
Mm-hmm.
And they're kind of accepting, what's working and what's not. So I think that it's going to be 2-1, except I'm going United.
Okie dokie. Let's move on to the next set of the week, which is going to be Radiance versus RNG. Let's start with you, Lermy, on this one. Who you got in Radiance versus RNG?
Honestly, I just think Radiance is the stronger team. I think Renegades do have certain times where, like, Lasbra gets to pop off and kind of just put the whole squad in the backpack, but unless Renegades pull something out that Radiance just had no idea what's going on, like Jake plays something different. He doesn't play Fafnir, he doesn't play Tier or anything like that, but he pulls out something totally different.
The Osiris.
I mean, you know what? You probably could, and it might work, but I think Radiance is the more consistent team. They've got more tenured players, I feel like, and just their performance alone really does net them the W in my book, 2-0.
Let's go to you, Frost. What do you think about Radiance versus RNG?
I think this is going to be Radiance. This Radiance versus like Phase 1 Radiance, it seems like they've matured.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually playing a lot cleaner. They're actually respecting. I didn't see a lot of wonky stuff in the earlier games, even though they were the stronger teams. That's where they normally would be experimenting. Renegades I think they have to meet them eye to eye. If they don't play clean, I think they're just going to get stomped out because Radiance actually has the respect for them now. They seem to be gentlemen of the league instead of just pub stars. I think that's going to go 2-0 Radiance.
2-0 Radiance. All right, finally, Chuck, to you. Radiance versus RNG. Who you got?
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd say 2-0 Radiance. I feel like Radiance, Ghost, and SSG have probably come out the most stable and consistent, I'd say, in this half of the SPL.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like everyone else is sort of, hasn't quite found their groove yet. I think Renegades is definitely like, still trying to find that. So I think if, trends continue, then and Radiance plays their game, unless Renegades pull it together, then it should be a 2-0 to Radiance.
Sure. All right, Ghost versus Sanguine. Who you got in this one? Let's start with you, Frost. Ghost versus Sanguine.
Well, they already beat SSG, who I believe to be like Sanguine Prime.
Sure.
So I think this is going to be a 2-0, unless. God, this is why I can't
2-1
stand
if
them.
they're trolling?
Unless they're 2-1 if they're trolling. Yeah, if the first game is way too much of a stomp, then they just absolutely troll. They should have lost that last one, but Cherry was too nice about it. So that's a 2-0 to Ghost, 2-1 if they're trolling.
Sure. Let's go to you, Chuck. Ghost versus Sanguine.
I'd probably say 2-1 Ghost. I think. Yeah, I think Ghost is definitely on the uptick right now. Sanguine have been looking shakier than some of the Split 1 performances, so I think it's definitely... Sanguine definitely has the potential to take the set, and so I'd say a pretty reasonable 2-1.
Sure. Lermy, what about you? Ghost versus Sanguine. Who you got?
As much as I love Sanguine, they're all my boys. I love them, but Ghost probably is going to get this 2-0. I think that Sanguine definitely have been improving. They, are kind of finding out, after these mid-season changes, what's more of their style. I just don't think that they, are going to be able to take a game. But, there always is that option for there to be a 2-1. But if I'm being serious here, it's going to be a 2-0.
All right, 2-0 to Ghost. Radiance have a doubleheader this week, going up against SSG in their second set. Let's start with you, Chuck. Radiance versus SSG. Who do you got in this one? This is sort of a heavyweight matchup, if you will.
Yeah, this is definitely on paper it should definitely be a close one.
Maybe a game of the week contender with Obey versus United, right?
Yeah, I mean SSG has shown a lot of their quality. They've also shown that they can get blown out in 22 minutes. So I think. I'd probably say it's definitely a 2-1 on paper at least, but I'd probably go with SSG.
Ooh, 2-1 SSG. Okay. Lermy, what about you? Radiance versus SSG?
I agree, 2-1. I think these guys are definitely going to be a little more even matched than, what we saw SSG and Ghost being. But I think it's going to be Radiance coming up top. I mean, we said this before, Radiance have cleaned up a lot. I think that they are certainly giving a lot more respect to their opponents now. And, the Space Station definitely play a little bit different than, I guess, that they're going up against with other contenders. But I think that, the way that they play very solid Smite, and they kind of just do their own thing and then run with it. So I think it's going to be 2-1 in their favor.
All right, 2-1 to Radiance for Lermy. What about you, Frost? Radiance versus SSG.
Well, you say this could be the match of the week. I think this is going to be incredibly slow. I think both of them are just going to tiptoe in front of each other.
Some classic European Smite.
Yeah, I think they're both going to come out with two comps that are kind of mutually exclusive. I don't think they'll actually pay the respect of like, there's something specific you want, something specific I want. We'll try to counter each other. No, I think it's going to be a slow burn. And I think Vote's going to crack under the pressure for SSG.
Uh-oh.
I think it's going to be I'm going to just tell you right now, if anybody gets reckless on that team, it's usually him. Just something about him. The man gets antsy. I think it's going to be a pretty interesting match, but in the end, I'm going to do a 2-0 Radiance.
2-0 Radiance. All right. Chuck, you're the only one who's got SSG winning this set. So,
I mean, it could be listen, it's probably going to come down to a coin toss at 45 minutes.
Sure.
Who fucks up the fire giant the most? Let's be real. So.
All right, another couple teams with doubleheaders this week. We have RNG, the Renegades, versus Obey in the 5th match of the week. Let's start with you, Lermy. Who you got for Renegades versus United?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's a United, but honestly, I think Renegades has been a little more consistent than United. I think, Snoopy is still struggling a little in his transition to the support role, so this will kind of be, his proving week. Is he able to overcome it here up against the Renegades? But I don't know. I think when we see gameplay from RNG, I just feel like they generally do a little bit better. I could see this going 2-1, but I'm giving it 2-0 Renegades.
Okay, 2-0 Renegades for Lermy. What about you, Frost? Renegades
United. That's an easy one. You got Barra, you got Jake going against Snoopy and Guy J. If Snoop was ADC, I could maybe give it to United at least one game, but no. Like that old matchup, I think Snoopy has Barra's number, but as support, that's going to be a 2-0, and it's just going to be because of duo lanes.
Sure. Chuck, what about you? Renegades versus United? Who you got?
Yeah, I mean, I think United's still going through a lot of teething issues with the Snoopy and Guy J switch around, so I think I don't really see a world where United win.
Mm-hmm.
I think Renegades probably pretty comfortably 2-0.
All right. Let's start with Frost on the last set of this upcoming weekend with PK versus Obey, who is also doing a doubleheader, which is why I got confused. PK versus Obey. Who do you think's going to win, Frost?
Yeah, that's just that's a Knights 2-0. I think if we're going just team for team, they're a lot cleaner than Obey is in general.
Sure.
All the other ones I go off of some kind of crazy nutty synergies with some players or some picks into the other, but I think this one's just going to go good old fashioned team play. It's going to be Knights 2-0.
Chuck, I'm sure you're pulling for your PK points. Is it a 2-0 for that?
Yeah, I mean, right now I think we're definitely going through our own issues, but I feel like we're pretty consistent against these sorts of teams that are also going through issues. I think we did pretty handily against United. I feel like United and Obey are pretty similar, so I'd expect a pretty similar result.
2-0?
2-0, yeah.
All right. Larry, to you?
I'm in the same boat. I think 2-0. Obey is going through issues, as Chuck mentioned, so I think that they will probably not have a cleanup by this point. I think that this could definitely be a place where they could prove themselves, but I think that in general, Knights is the more tenured team. They've got just generally better players. It's a 2-0 for them.
Sure. Kind of seems to me like the Knights versus Renegades matchup is actually going to be a pretty important one for sort of determining some of the middle of the pack for this phase. Is that sort of how you guys feel as well?
That's why I've had these teams. This is like, if you'd asked me at the start of this season what my rankings are, this is exactly where I would have put them all. I would have put Ghost at the very top, Radiance, SSG, kind of, they could take it one way or the other. Sanguine, pure middle of it. They, to me, are like the epitome of what you need to be in the SPL. I think they absolutely belong there, and that's just strong smite there. I expected Knights to be with them, though, or if not slightly above them. So I think a Knights versus Renegades match, that's going to kind of show, all right, where's the issues here?
Sure.
And then 7 and 8, it's nothing personal. It's just all the other teams have had more tenure, more time together. It's difficult to grow in a competitive league with new players.
That's a good segue, Frost. I wanted to ask about power rankings. Chuck, what is your sort of power rankings? Do they fall basically in line with what Frost has laid out there?
I mean, yeah. Right now, I'd say, yeah, Ghost is probably number one, at least judging off, their recent performance. I don't think. I'd say SSG probably would have been, the other team you'd consider for number one, but obviously those two teams just matched up last week, so it's pretty. I don't think you could say anyone other than Ghost would be one. I'd say it's pretty tight between SSG and Radiance. I don't think you could really make a meaningful distinction between second and third there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very much just on the day. I'd agree with Frost about Sanguine being where they are. I feel they're pretty consistent. They've definitely slipped a bit from how strong they were coming out of the gate this year, but I think they're still super consistent. I feel Renegades and us, I feel, are probably the teams, and Sanguine too, I guess, that have the most potential to punch upwards against these teams.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, I mean, obviously I'm a little bit biased, but
I mean, hey, you're a world champion, so you should definitely feel like you can, punch upwards.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, there's flashes. I mean, just watching, my team. There's flashes of brilliance and potential, and there's definitely points where you can say this team could easily take it if we just ironed out these issues. Like there's for every one or two good plays early, at least right now, there's something else that just one big moment late game where some team fight messes up or someone gets picked, and that's sort of similar for Renegades. I feel like if these issues just get ironed out, focused down, and stop happening, and just mistakes in general. If mistakes just stop, just calm down a little.
I think that's every coach's dream, right?
All
the mistakes stop.
Yeah, I love
to pay him for. He just goes on there, just stop making mistakes. Just stop.
I run through the same three freaking PowerPoint dot points every session. Just group up. Play a soundboard. But yeah, I mean, I'd say Renegades and us are probably pretty closely tied right now. I mean, I think a more interesting thing would be where teams would eventually end up.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like right now, I'd say it's very easy to just say Renegades and us are probably, what are we up to, 5th and 6th? And then I think, I personally, I think Obey right now is a pretty comfortable 8th. Not that far behind United, but there's still a decent gap there, I think. I mean, granted, we still have to see more of Snoopy and Guy J and how they slot into the United roster, but I feel like they too have a fair bit of potential, so I feel like that's probably how it shakes out.
Yeah, there should be 2 good games for them to showcase the Guy J transition coming up this week. Lermy, what about you? Where do you see the league stacking up here?
I'm in a very similar boat here as the other guys. I think Ghost is definitely your number 1. Radiant Space Station could hit that 2 and 3 spot. I think Sanguine definitely solid at 4. But I think Knights have more potential than Renegades to grow out in general. And if this was Phase 1, I would say United would be up there as well. But, unfortunately, they had to lose Genetics due to some visa issues. So at this point, honestly, I might even put them under Obey just because I feel like Obey has been growing at such a faster rate than they have. And, they've got a lot to prove this week. If they're able to get the games and things like that, then by all means, my opinion could change. But I don't know. At this point, I have a little more faith in Obey in the long term than United. But I think where they're at right now is pretty accurate.
Sure. So let's just run through it. I think looks like 1 is Ghost unanimously, and then 2, 3 is maybe split between Radiance and SSG, and then Sanguine is definitively 4. It feels like on all of your lists, and then PK Renegades is the 5, 6. Some people feel a little more strongly about PK, and the 7, 8 is United Obey. With I think you and Frost, I think 2 people had United above Obey. I think Chuck and Frost both had a United above Obey. So I think everyone is sort of incongruity. Thanks for watching the SPL Rundown this week. Be sure to tune in every week, Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/Apam Productions to find all of our analysts' opinions on last week's games and the games of the future. If you have any guests in the Smite scene that you want to see on our show, be sure to DM me on Twitter @Apam2 or @Apam Productions. Furthermore, if you want to see extended cuts of my interviews with the analysts or with pro players, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Apam Productions on YouTube. Thanks a lot for watching. See you guys next week.